This is Bob, and I am a different man. I am soaring above every principality, power, circumstance, situation, Democrat, Republican, Independent, border war. It's all in the hands of God. We'll see all things come together to those. All things come together for good to those who love Him. And I am talking with my deeper, manly voice this morning, and we are traveling and journeying through the Yellow House. Let me just tell you a little story about the Yellow House as we begin. The Yellow House was a house that I dreamed of for 7 years, and it was like the Yellow Shack, and it was a place that different ones would deal with trauma, and they're reformers. And reformers just are those who have this unique worship in them, and they display it on the mountains, which is everybody. But it's the many are called, and the few get around to it at times. And it's not putting people down, but it's just going to be a dedicated journey. Not religious, not dutiful, but it's a pearl of great price to not go around the mountains and die on the petty mountains like Deuteronomy 6. And so God is really very sincere, focused on us going through the Yellow House. He said the earth has been void of His mercy, He said, which was profound to me, and that He had a merciful way that made healing and wholeness fun. And I've been blown away about what He's opened up in this Yellow House. As I've shared it with different people, I said it's the next Pilgrim's Progress. I don't want to oversell it, but there's one that's wanting to make a Yellow House in LA where people can deal with their trauma and go through these different rooms. And each of these rooms have corners to the room. Like love and forgiveness, there's 8 corners, and there's a different lesson learned at each one, heart lesson, mind lesson, and it's transforming. And there's a different object lesson where you get to be involved and interactive, because this is our God who works with us this way. He's an object lesson God, and He meets us in those objects, those true realities of life, and He develops in us love and forgiveness, or He develops in us joy in the joy room. He develops in us. And I have a list of just some of the rooms somewhere here. But the mixing board room, where we get synced up with who we are, who others are. It's profound. It's a tuning. He has the BU room or the gift review room. And that's a profound room where He holds up mirrors to people and He shows them what He shows them about them. And there's more corners to that room. He has the understanding room where we can't judge the thoughts and intents of another's heart, but He brings great understanding to ourselves about ourselves, and also He gives us a way to go through the filter of understanding of others and the deeper levels of questions that helps them to be unlocked. In the conversations I heard in that room were ridiculous, in just their richness. And then He has the God You Can Trust room. And that was a beautiful room where there was no ability to do anything but trust Him. And the Psalms 131, I lay my head on Your chest. I'm like a weaned child. I don't involve myself in matters too great for me. And He said, to those who will do less on their own, I can do more on their behalf. And it was brilliant. So these are rooms that we're going to enter into. Obviously, I didn't touch them all. But first, I want to give you the 11 reasons why, which 11 means transition. And we're transitioning into this Yellow House. And we're walking through it together. You can do it as family. You can do it as an individual. We're going to develop out pictorials so that you can see it. And you can see what station you're at. And you can experience it. And it be mighty together. An extravaganza of the Yellow House. A deep work of the Yellow House. transformative work of the Yellow House for you and for me and for all of us. So let me give you, he wants us to go, number one, through this Yellow House, because there's a shift that's needed for us, and it's timing. And the shift is from just church transformation to reformation. And so that I've explained a few times, so I won't go back and explain that. But the first thing that was a reason that is the overarching reach then is because he wanted his people to become an inside-out people. And in Proverbs 14:14, it says, "A good man or woman is satisfied from within." I know we know the scriptures, but living the reality, empowered by him, is enabled by going through this Yellow House. Because it's like the road to Emmaus. They had to walk on it in their doubt, confusion, their fissures, before they came out the other side where their hearts burned and they were filled up and they were equipped to go about the work of his ministry on a whole different level. So the first reality is that a reason is because, again, we become an inside-out person. That they say in John 7:38, out of our innermost being will flow rivers of living water. We have a mind that doesn't have dusty cabin thinking, but golden thoughts, heavenly thinking, seeing the blueprints of heaven for our own life, for our families, for cities, nations. And the clutter is not to be expected, but the clarity from God. And we're to have it like Solomon did, like Moses did, and beyond. And there's a table of the Lord where he wants to bring us that inside-out counsel where we have the Lord's counselors. We're to be allergic to any counsel outside of Jesus. And that is number one reason that we live from the inside out, not based on circumstances. Like Isaiah 56, we have a dream, we come down to beasts of the field, and it's full of joy. Try to devour it, and many become greedy for gain. It means they just self-protect. He says, no, we want us to be like Isaiah 49. That servant gave everything he had. He ends up in the dark, and he says, I don't get it. I gave you all that I am, but my due is with you. And he said, to that one, I can give the Gentiles and the Jews. So these beautiful challenges just enable the cream to come forth and the gold to come forth. And that's number one, what will happen through the Yellow House, because there's greater tools to answer our deeper heart questions and pains as reformers, to where we are living like the ones in Acts 1 where they came out of the upper room with exceeding great joy and never moved from that place. This is heaven. If you're okay with you and God's okay with you, then you're okay. And that was the first benefit or reason to go through this. No more of the wrestlings. Just if you're okay with you, you're okay with God, you're okay. And it is a heart of innocence to believe you're perfect and to live from this inside out reality. But he died that he might be perfect in you. That was we lift up the resurrection, but the incarnation is just as powerful. That he did this $1 billion act not to bring forth a 1 penny result. And it's that we would flow from every pore of our being with the presence of God from the inside out. It would pour out of every pore of our being constantly, and bitter and sweet would come forth. We're all on that journey, and I have step backs. Did this morning. My mind in the wrong place. I'm just coming to you very vulnerable today. I'm going through one of the most painful things in my life, getting curveballs from people that I love, and it's not fair. It's misunderstanding. It's not right. Now, I've made mistakes, but this is not right. And what do I do with that? Do I say, well, the sovereign will or the sovereign God can't overcome that, and love can't overcome that, and live from the outside in where I flail and try to make circumstances change? Or do you and I partner together and help each other, hold our hands, and help us through the Yellow House If we need to go in that joy room, that grief room, if we need to go into that understanding others room, then we're going to go there together. And each day he'll give us a room that we need to live in that day. So get your friends, get everybody, because this is where we're at in the journey of the kingdom. So powerful to live from the belly. I was with Bob Jones and Bonnie Jones, and he gave me his favorite shirt. It was one he had waited for me for. And she wanted me to come over. And it was a shirt, and it says Soaring Like Eagles. He always wore it, that sweatshirt. This is the number one shirt. He said, you know, Bonnie said, talk to Manny, but you were his favorite son. We had hours and hours together. I had such history with him. And said, and you were Viola's and you're mine. And it just was so securing, but it was what I already felt new, and there's many he loved. But the night of the week before he died, I was with him, and I shared with him about his life, past, present, and the future. And it was from the inside out. I had cultivated, like Mary, just a seed to birth in him as he transitioned to the next world. And he said, Bonnie, he's not 30% accurate, which he thinks is very high. He's 100%. And he said, he's not my son anymore. He's his son. And so I was put in a different place by the grace of God. And the doors are shut, and I become a prisoner of hope. But you're to rise above it and be patriarchs, matriarchs of hope. You're to be buoyant. You're not to be feeding on the sour grapes. And you're to be those that, number one, through this process, learn about being and become inside-out people. That's reason number one. Reason number two is because the Isaiah 56 reality, that there's many that have run into resignation, or they got a thorn in their paw. They've been hurt by movements. They've been hurt by business. They've been hurt by the political. I go to those different groups and other groups, and it's just real relational. And I am able, by the grace of God, to help find the thorn in their paw. That's what happens in the yellow house. You find where you have that fissure or that pain, and he's able to remove it. And he's able to bring you great hope in that place and trade your beauty for ashes. And it's stunning, the people I've seen in the different rooms and how he's able to take some of the most bitter, hurt people, take the thorn out, bring a balm, and it always has a sense, our name written on it, of understanding, or his name of their real identity, and they're just breaking down, and the name of their true hope and their true dream. And when he implants it at the right time, then we become those who have the second roar, not based on circumstances, but based on the greatness of God. And that's what he wants to bear and bring you forth in the yellow house. This is not abstract. It's the reformer's finishing school. It's the building blocks for reformers. There's others, but this is the hope healing pillar he had showed me. I wanted to build the hope reformation pillar. He moved me over to this one for my own journey. And he said, if you get healed, everybody gets healed. So third, that the yellow house is so profound for the body of Christ in the West and everywhere. There has been a positioning to stare into the revelatory side of God. Even those who wouldn't call themselves charismatics, they are staring into the Word, trying to get revelation, versus staring into his face, the relational side of God, seeing the appropriate face at the appropriate time, and being able to meet him. Whether right now for me it's a God of comfort, and I'm not to leave until I understand that. And it is changing me dramatically, because it's not a face of God I've focused on as much. And it's highly necessary that I know his comfort, that I can give his comfort. And his comfort is just a blanket over every negative or challenging circumstance. And we have to have it as reformers cultivated, or we become reactionary. We end up in the fight or flight. So that's incredibly important, because when the attacks come, if you don't know the relational side of God, then you'll end up in a place where the attacks, you might be able to stand the praise, but not the attacks. And it will cause you to get off balance, and severely it could. So he's taking us through the yellow house to build out that reality. In the yellow house, he also takes us not only from the CEO builders, which all of us have a measure of that in us, but it's called the analytical side of the brain, but to the patriarchal side, where we're not about our own goals, but we're listening, loving, launching others, and we see part of our goals really meshed up, integrated with their goals. If we don't, then we become these independent ones that are just trying to make it happen on our own. And we need each other, and the nets will be thrown, and the 12 angry tribes will come together, and there'll be a melting of hearts, and it will happen soon. And when it does, there'll be several 100,000 people, and they'll all seem as one. It won't seem like a large crowd. And I'll tell you where it'll be next time. So there's next, the being allergic to counsel that's outside of Jesus in the yellow house. That there's so many counsels, so much opinions in the body of Christ without understanding. And God is really bringing Hebrews 4:11 to the forefront. No one can judge the thoughts and intents of another's heart. And I found that as going through the yellow house, I saw people in rooms I would have never expected it. I would have had my own sense of opinion. And he says, what's it to you that I have them here? What's it to you? And I'd ask him a question. He'd say, such a big question for such a small man. It was unbelievable. And I started to see others through the eyes of Jesus and the possibilities of not what they were, but what he was bringing them into. That God sight I want to live in. And that's what happened there. Said, reasons why to go into the yellow house. He said, sometimes you have to leave to find hope. That we get into a pattern and in a city where the giants become stronger than who we are. I live in Kansas City. Showed me 8 giants against my promised land there. First giant sounds crazy. It was the giant of busyness devoid of life. And it would keep me busy through pain, through, creating value. It just was so laced in me that I could not stop. And he spoke about that you got to the Lord's counselors. And so I started listening to people that are gracious, that are seasoned, that are senior leaders in whatever arena. And they started to give me input. That was the counsel of Jesus. And it's made all the difference. So be open to the Lord's counselors he's sending to you right now. Then he spoke that you have to, but you get to open the book of your heart as you go through the yellow house. And that's a decision for each one. Many of us have been hurt and drawn back. We become a wall, and you got to hang ornaments on a wall. That means you got to draw them out. And so there's this place where you really open the book of your heart fully to his eyes. There's no areas held back. There's no areas that you're afraid of, because you know his redemptive love and that he's there with you in the darkest times, even that you created, and that he's there to pull you out of the miry clay. So it is always, always drawing close and open the book of our heart, and that will need a choice. Because as much as you give your heart as you go through this yellow house, as much as you experience a cataclysmic transformation. Next, there was 5 upgrades of love in the yellow house. I'm just going to state them, develop them later. They're too important. They're the key. There was an upgrade in love for God, where you saw him and heard him. Upgrade love for people, where you're tuned to them, listen to their emotions, feelings, their hearts. Might not agree with some of it, but listen very well and gave them tremendous support. That's an upgrade of love for people, and there's more to it. Upgrade of love for life, where life wasn't mundane, but I saw a video camera and the lights, what looked like a mundane day outside, all of a sudden from one end to the other, filled with brilliant colors and light and distinctive. I was just seeing in a different realm what he saw about a tree, what he saw about parked cars in the city. And I was just undone. And he wants to invite us into that living experience. Then there's just the play therapy. And I didn't name all the upgrades, but I'm just for the time, and I know we're going to come back to it. But the idea of 11 reasons why. One is just to equip our teachers, to equip us as we're feeding our children, where we go through a positive memory and an appreciation moment. We find out how they're doing, and then we tell them, we give them an appreciation sandwich that says, I'm always with you, always love you. Please don't park your car in my parking spot, but I'll always love you and be with you. Where there's just this way of not harshness, not incompleteness, not abandoning, not cutting off, but this place of I'm always going to be for you. And we're going to work this out together. And it makes it fun. And confrontation becomes fun when you run to each other and you believe in each other and you say, hey, this hurt. Then you want to hear that. And that'll cause, in the yellow house, as we go through the different rooms, that'll be unfolded. Lastly, the yellow house is a place that I've shared about before, where there were 4 scenes of his tragedy that I saw from the heavenly place. It's amazing. You can look on the Elijah list or our homepage. I believe you can find all the Vimeos that talk about the looking through the 4th scene. I just think it's called To See the 5th Scene. But 4 scenes of his big challenges on the earth that seemed overcoming to me. And then he said, but there'll be a 5th scene. I'm watching these 4 scenes and I want out of my body. It's just too much for me to bear. Long pause, 5th scene, he's as high as the sky laughing. I said, what about all the evil? Just microcosm dot comes in, it's obliterated. And he said, that's all the evil, all the pain, all the perplexity. And I thought, man, I got a bigger dot than that dot. He said, no, could you hear my thoughts? It's just a part of that little dot. So I have now entered into the 4th scene that I saw years ago. Saw a vagabond killed in an alley as the 1st scene. I saw 3rd scene, nursing home women that I got to help. And I mean, if I didn't have the 5th scene God, be able to see the filter through the nature of God and his greatness, I would not have been up to it. But the 4th scene was the 4th scene that's happened where my wife left. And I never mentioned it. People would ask me forever, because there's not been egregious sin. There hasn't been a whole lot. You know, it's just moving apart, and you know, it's as painful as anything you could go through. But there just is this getting hold of the 5th scene and seeing her and seeing the situation through the 5th scene and seeing the Hartley legacy in the days to come and how the family will build in hope in the days to come, and seeing it with the confidence that there's this legacy that he has protected that will come forth, and that is coming forth each day. And I'm going through the 4th scene with the 5th scene God. And sometimes I'll lose traction, but that's why you have marvelous comrades that will remind me. And that's why you have this journey of the yellow house, where it brings you into wholeness for love and forgiveness. It brings you into wholeness for joy into being who you're called to be and being able to be in the mixing board room so you get attuned with others, to be able to be in the understanding room so you can understand others and yourself. And they all have profound and deep applications. And there's more of the temptation room, where you get tempted just to give up or give in to, bitterness or that. And he meets you, and you bring your temptations before him, and he implodes them and gives you something better. So hopefully this was full of life in the spirit, because in the natural, it was just melodious and peaceful. So I'm going to pray for you, and I want you to meditate on these 11 reasons for entering the yellow house, that you might go on this journey with us, and you might become a part of our Hope 365. It's the best feeding I've ever heard, day by day on the faces of God, that you might become a part of our Hope 52 plan, which teaches you how to hear God, that you might become a part of our partners, which we really need your support. So I love you, and there's other things to bring up. I'll be on trips for a while. Mark Sharonis, just be a friend. He's an amazing man. Most of you know him. And then I'll be with some of those people out there, and you would know them. And we're just going to share life. And I'm not going for big ministry trips at this point. I'll go to friends and share on Hope. I'm really excited. I go back to Kansas City, but also Columbia with Lance Wall now. Robin McMillan, I'm so sorry. Robin was the leader of Morning Star for years with Rick, I'm sorry. And then I'll be back to Kansas City and see family and work on my business. I ask for your prayer there. And then I will be back here in Laguna Niguel, Bakersfield, and Santa Maria, such good friends, and Redding at some point. But I'm doing a book tour with my son. If any of you in California are interested, and we're just going to come share a few stories. His book is sold out at Walgreens a couple times, Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It's a great read. Everybody has said it. And it's a book about my life, but it's your story. So you can order it on Amazon. Not trying to sell anything. It's just perfect. All right. Love you. Bless you. I got to answer this phone call. Bye.